Still can't use it. I mean, that's okay.
I don't know why I can't use your camera. You want to make you host?
Whatever you want to do, buddy.
No need. Right. Let's get going. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the webinar for turnover tsunamis. We're going to talk about a couple ways we can avoid a turnover tsunami and actionable employee retention strategies that every business owner should know. So according to SHRM, more than half of employees surveyed in North America plan to look for a new job as of 2021 and 2022. And according to a new report, while separate research shows that a quarter of workers plan to quit their jobs outright once the COVID-19 pandemic subsides and recruiting efforts ramp up. And there's reasons for this job happening. Excuse me. Let me close the door here. There's reasons for this job hopping. Respondents gave a variety of reasons, and they want to move on to new opportunities because they found disengagement at their current job. There's burnout, overworking. Virtual has made that even more prevalent reason. You know, we're working more hours, we have less travel time, and as well as the typical career-oriented contributing factors like wanting a promotion or raise and maybe not having the capital to provide that for that employee. So as the COVID-19 pandemic ramped up, it's affected the nation, it's affected businesses, new hires, recruiters, employees, and they all have reached record highs. So I think it's very prevalent that we discuss a couple different ways, actually really 3 ways to avoid this turnover tsunami. There's 2 really big contributing factors to sleepless nights when it comes to being a business owner. The first one's cash flow. And the second one is losing your best people and not having the time, money, energy, or resources to replace those great people. So if you have someone who's really key to your business and they were to walk away for the greener grass on the other side of the pasture, how's it going to impact your business, the production, the leadership model that you have in place, the culture? There's so many things to think about here. So the guest I want to introduce for you today, some of you might know him already. His name is Ben Decker. He's a certified exit planner as well, and he is also with Consolidated Planning. Welcome, Ben.
Hey, Steven. Doing good. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yep, we can hear you.
I know you can't see me.
No. So I'm going to drive today. I'm going to go through and start the presentation. And at any time, if you guys have questions, you can use the chat feature and we'll be sure to do that as an interactive portion of the presentation. So let's get going here.
Perfect.
All right.
Great.
Is this showing 2 parts, 2 slides?
Yeah, you just want to see, you want to change your view.
Okay.
Display settings. See display settings at the top.
Okay.
I don't know.
There we go.
Cool. We don't want to show like the next slide, right? That would be too much info.
So, I'm with Huskey Financial, and if this is purely educational in nature, if anybody has any questions, we will send over the recorded version of this webinar. There's a link to my calendar. If you have additional questions, always happy to help.
Awesome. Perfect. So you want to dive in, Steven?
Go ahead.
Awesome. Well, I think with this whole, which I love the title, Steven, the tsunami, it's probably felt that way for a lot of employees or employers, I'm sorry. With the pandemic and everything that happened, employers are looking for ways that they can not only attract, that's always been a thing, but retain those key people, that top talent that comes on board and does a really great job. one of the things that keeps them up, as you mentioned, is the fact that, what if they leave? If they leave, if the headhunters come knocking on the door and they leave, what is that going to do to my business? And I think what business owners first need to do is become aware of the rising expectations of the rank and file, right? The rank and file are looking for basic group benefits, the ones that we all get, and we all probably have, right? We're talking dental, vision, health insurance, 401ks, the menu, right, of benefits. And in absence of those benefits, your business becomes the replaceable one, right? Not the employee. So that's sort of like the basics that everybody's sort of looking for. And what the transition that has occurred over the years is that these benefits have become a commodity, right? And they fail at doing one of the main things that we want to do with employees, which is engage them. And that's when we have a positive corporate culture, right, with a highly productive workforce. And that's really hard to obtain. It's hard to obtain with those rank and file benefits, right? Because you can get them anywhere. Like if you really want a 401k, Steven, you could go to Starbucks and you can go get one, right? You might not like your job, but you would have that 401k. So the idea is to look deeper into these benefits and say, well, what can we do? What can we do as an employer that is different, that separates us? So the first question you need to ask is the one that you see there on the screen. Well, what doesn't retain, right? It's a totally different topic than performance, right? Performance are these short-term, items that are really designed to shape employee behavior over a very short period of time. Okay, so think of, hey, we have, we're 3 months into the year, we have 9 months left. We need to figure out, we want to get to this sort of cash flow benchmark, and we're going to try to motivate everybody and say, hey, if we get there, we're going to give you some cash, right? Or we're going to give you a match in your 401k. We're going to give you dental. We're going to give you all these things, right? And then you have retention planning, which is totally different. It's more long-term, right? It's designed to keep an employee around for a certain period of time.
So
Right?
you're saying there's a difference between attraction and retention, and attraction being just offering the basic benefits to attract new employees to your business and make you really a competitive employer. And then there's retention, which is different.
Right. So here's what we know, Steven, right? Which is this next slide here, or not next slide, but this next statement is that these benefits, although they're great, go ahead and back up one. Although they're great benefits that most people are used to getting in the field, is that they don't retain past 12 months, right? A 401k is not going to keep somebody around. Dental is not going to keep somebody around. These basic insurances are not going to keep anybody around because they can go get them somewhere else.
Right.
So how do we retain? So go ahead and click to the next slide. So let's dive into what it means to retain people. Like, what does a good retention plan look like? And it has unique characteristics, right? The first one is that it has to be deferred. They cannot get the benefit tomorrow, right? So if I said, Steven, I really want you to do well here, I want to keep you around, here's some cash, right? If you knew that benchmark was coming and you knew the cash was coming, you would stay until the end of the year, you would get your cash, and then you'd go off to the competitor, right? So cash doesn't keep people around. We need to have this benefit deferred. At the same breath, it can't be like retirement, which is like 30 years down the road, which nobody really cares about when they're 35, 40 years old, right? People do care about it, but they don't really see that as an awesome benefit because it's so far away. The sweet spot that we're looking for is anywhere from 10 to 15 years. That's what you want to see.
Okay.
The second one, and this is where our planning becomes fun, is that it needs to address some sort of emotional milestone in their life. And this can be financial, right? It has to be financially substantial to them, but it also needs to be emotionally compelling to them. So I'll give you a few examples, right? Retirement's an obvious one. If you had somebody that was close to retirement, we said, hey, we can help you do that. That's sort of a common one. But the less common ones, which are really unique, let's say you have a younger employee that's really talented and you want to keep that person around. We've done things like, hey, what if we paid for all 3 of your kids' college funding? Right? You stay with us for 15 years, we're going to pay for your kids' college funding.
Yeah.
And boy, that person is going to show up to work the next few days, next few years, right? To meet that benefit. We've done other unique things, like for a lot of people that are coming out of college with a lot of debt. We said, hey, look, let's assume that debt's not forgiven, right? That's always sort of a caveat. But hey, look, you got piles of student loan debt. This works a lot with medical professionals. If
Mhm.
you stick around with our office for X number of years, we're going to go ahead and pay off your student loans for you, or we're going to help you put a down payment on a house, right? You can get really unique and really circumstantial, right? Depending on the person's life and what's important to them, right? You can really address those things. So that's kind of fun. That's the fun part of creating these plans. And a lot of people don't know that you can do that, right? They think like, well, I have a 401k. What else can I do?
I just don't know.
Right, right. And the third rule, which I think this is probably the most important rule, compensation out there, people make it very complicated. And this should not be complicated. It should pass the spouse test, I call it. Meaning when they go home from work, they say, Steven, how was your day? And you say, honey, it was great. You'll never believe this. If I stay with the company for 10 years, they're going to pay for our kids' college. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Yeah, amazing, right?
You're
It's
never allowed
that
to
simple,
leave.
right? You better show up at work. Um, but it's very simple. It translates, from the CEO to or the owner to the employee that you value, so that they can go home and they can tell the message to their spouse, and it's a very clearly laid out plan, right? And then all these retention plans. Here's the one thing that's unique compared to like, I'll just compare it to a 401k, Stephen. Like a 401k, there's no guarantee of what that balance will be when they retire, right? Like it's just a contribution that you're making, and that contribution is invested, and we don't know, what that's going to be in the future because the market fluctuations. But in this case, what we're looking for is a benefit that is guaranteed to be there, right? This is sort of something that this is a promise to pay. Like, Stephen, you stick with us for 10 years, 15 years, whatever it is. We promise we are going to pay for your kids' college in a certain number, right? A numeric value that we've created.
Right.
So it has to have a guarantee to pay. It also, the best ones, the best retention plans also pay if you get sick or hurt along the way, because that can happen, right? As an employee is doing a great job and then some unforeseen life event wipes them out. Well, you still get this benefit, right? You still get this benefit despite that happening. And God forbid if you died too soon and you didn't make it to the end of that period, that 10, 15-year period, we're going to pay that anyway to your beneficiary. Okay. So this is a very, very valuable benefit to those that receive it. And they go home and they see their value, they perceive their value right away, right? There's no mistake of it. Very clear.
Well, I'll tell you what, I mean, key employees specifically, they crave recognition. And what better way to recognize the people who mean so much to your business by telling them and showing them? So actions have louder repercussions than words. And this is a great way to do it.
Exactly. Exactly. Perfect. So here's just a sample case of what a popular one, and just to show how diverse these types of plans can be. And they're simple too, right? They're not your typical ERISA guided plans, right? These are plans that do not have to meet those benchmarks and those qualifications. So there's a lot of flexibility in these. And here's an example of that. If you have Mrs. Jane Key, employee, and she's the VP of operations, she's 55. She's staring retirement in the face, right? She's got 10 more years of working. And if she's like a lot of people out there, maybe she didn't save enough, and she's starting to think about what Social Security will look like. And we say, hey, Jane, if you stick with us, we're going to pay you supplemental income so you can defer Social Security and get a higher payout. Of course, maybe some people on the call don't know that, but if you wait on Social Security to age 70, that's going to be a much higher paycheck than if you took it at 66, right? So we say, hey, look, we're going to pay you from 66 to 70. And so you don't have to tap into that Social Security and you can get a higher payout. So it means a lot, right? Because she can keep her retirement plan assets invested. She doesn't have to tap into those, and she can defer Social Security. And she loves that idea, right? That's a huge impact for her. And there's something that she needs to do. She needs to stick with us for 10 years, and we need to meet as a company, we need to meet a certain profit margin, right? So you can shape this behavior around what the company's goals are. If the company wants to hit X, well, we try to get Jane Key and John Key to produce X. So essentially, if you look at the math, it's almost a free benefit. Yes, you're giving something to them, but your cash flow looks a lot better. And then over on the right-hand side, we have John Key, who's younger. He's 35 and he has some kids. And we said, look, if you stick with us, we're going to give you 50 grand a year for each child for a 4-year period, right? We can't pay for a master's or pay for medical school, but we can pay for the first 4 years if you stick with us. You got to stay with us for 12 years, including the payout period to receive that. Right. So those are just really two diverse ways that we've implemented these with companies. So we're going to move on to another one here. Go ahead, Stephen.
You mentioned that these are definitely good retention plans, and this would get anybody who's working for the company excited. But the best plans have two defining factors, and one that makes sure that if the person can't come to work the next day because of a disability, that they're able to still have that plan implemented, or if they pass away, the heirs, usually spouse and kids, will get this benefit.
Absolutely. So John here, he's going to get 50 grand a year for each child for a 4-year period, whether he sticks with the company for 12 years. Obviously, if he became disabled, he wouldn't be with the company. So you'd think that would be forfeited, but that's not the case here. We actually protect that. And we say, no, John, you're still going to get that even if you die, right? Which is nothing you like to talk about. But if that does happen, you're not going to forfeit that benefit, because that would be a little unfair, right? Like, we love you, but if you get sick or hurt along the way, you don't get it. And if you die along the way, you don't get it. That wouldn't be very, very kind, right? So the second, go ahead, you can stay on that slide. That's fine. The second area. So we had the first one, which was a retention plan. And now you have the second area where we decided to, especially post-pandemic, we decided to shine a spotlight on protection, because that's where most people turn to for their protection items, right? Like all their insurance. Steven, you work with a lot of individuals on a financial planning level. I'm sure that every piece of protection that they own, a lot of it comes from their group benefits.
A lot of it does, yeah.
So that's where people turn to for protection. And one area in particular really made this, COVID-19 made this whole thing really important for people, because we received a lot of phone calls about this. Hey, do I have disability insurance? Because my neighbor just went in the hospital for 6 months and they didn't see it coming. Right. Mm-hmm. So everybody started to think about this stuff now. Yes, obviously health insurance is important, but I can't show up to work. I don't have a paycheck. It's one of the biggest, I would say, red flags when it comes to your financial planning. If your income stops abruptly without question, I think everything else stops, right? So employees were all of a sudden concerned about this benefit that really was under the radar for a long time. So what do they get at work? Well, they get something called group long-term disability. And group long-term disability is a great foundation, right? If you're an employer and you provide it, good for you. If your employees take you up on it, then great for them. It's something that they should have, but it does have limitations. And we'll just click through. I won't take too much of your time here on all of these, but one of them is the income most likely is going to be taxable. So you as an employer, if you offer that benefit, but you pay for it, well, the employee receives it and they get sick or hurt, they're going to have to pay taxes. And that's usually unexpected. The definition of disability, this is usually the biggest one. It's usually centered around this thing we call any occupation. Any occupation means if you can do anything, we're not going to pay you, right? So you have to be really disabled. Well, guess what? Most people aren't really disabled. They're partially disabled most of the time. Usually starts as partial or maybe ends as partial. And most people, if you're, for example, a dentist, right, and something happens, your ability to do your job is very fragile, right? If you can't be a dentist, then they're not going to pay. But if you can work at a convenience store, they're not going to pay either. So you want something that's centered around your occupation and protects your definition of disability. Piecemeal protection, it leaves a lot of things like bonuses, commissions, overtime, all that stuff. Yeah, it doesn't protect that income. And I know this is a pretty hardy slide here with a lot of stuff in it. reduced benefit, you get disabled and all of a sudden Social Security says, hey, we're going to pay you too. And then the insurance company says, oh, Social Security is going to pay you. Well, we're not going to pay you. So again, do you know how it works on the day that you need it? And you probably wouldn't be impressed if you did. Cost of living is always going up, your benefits staying the same. And then finally, and this is the biggest one for those that hire people on the call, this is the biggest one right here, this last one, which is called reverse discrimination. This is an accident. You don't think this is going to happen. You sign up for this benefit. You say, great, I want to protect my employees' income. Then all of a sudden you find that there's a cap. And because of this cap, the more people make, the less protection they have. So we'll just kind of show you how this works. This is an example of a medical office that we worked with that had a cap of $10,000 on their group disability. So Wendy Miller, who makes $150,000 a year, she actually had 60% of her income covered with this. And I would say that's okay, right? Like if you came to my office and we were doing a financial plan, I said, is your income protected? Yes, 60% of it is. I would say that's about normal. Wouldn't you say, Stephen?
It is. Yeah, 60, 65%.
Right. So that's like an okay plan that we see there. But the problem is $150,000 isn't what people make at this company, right? The next person, this person's an OBGYN and they make $250,000 a year, not 150. Well, because of this cap, only 48% of their income is covered. Uh-oh. All of a sudden we're seeing a trend here. The more money you make, Jennifer Brown, MD, makes 350, only 34% of her income is covered. And then finally, Matt Wilson, neurosurgeon, 450,000, only 27% of his income is covered. So again, these top people that you care and love, care about and love, and you want to keep them around, and then they look at their group disability and they find out that only 27% of my income is covered. And you think you have a really good group benefit, but they need something supplemental. So go ahead and click on the next screen, Stephen. And you can just click through this one, avoid the suspense. There we go. Oh, there we go. So what we do to help out with this area is we work with a lot of benefit providers too that do the group long-term disability. We work with a lot of owners, and we coordinate with all those professionals and say, hey, what can we do to fill this gap? And we add what we call as a guaranteed standard issue. That's jargon, but basically it means there's little to no underwriting, which is a really, really good thing. I don't know if anybody on the call has ever been through underwriting, but it's not fun and it's difficult.
You have to give your kids and your firstborn blood sample and social and medical records, driving records. It's a lot.
Yeah. So we can, with a few yes or no questions, we can get supplemental disability and cover up to 75% of everybody's income. So it's a major issue out there. It's now on the radar, right, because of COVID, and people are starting to pay attention to this stuff and look at the group benefit and go, it's complicated, right? And that's usually why they don't see the fact that it's lacking. But once you put it under the microscope, you can see this. And again, we've worked with benefit providers and slid in there, and we've become a hero to them because they can't, they don't know about this, right? They aren't aware that this is out there and people can get it.
Well, Ben, you mentioned that the group policies are going to be taxed. Are the supplemental GSI taxed as well?
Good question. No, they will not be taxed. They will be tax-free. Now you can set them up to be taxed, but usually people don't like that. Right. The majority of the time it's tax-free. Also, I do want to point out that the neurosurgeon, the anesthesiologist, the OBGYN, and the VP of technology here all have that light blue protection that protects their income from their occupation. So if they can't do what they do for a living, that benefit will still pay out. It addresses all those.
Be a Walmart greeter and they can still earn the money.
Yeah. A neurosurgeon, if you back up 1 second, that neurosurgeon actually can still be a neurosurgeon, right? They can still work in the office. If most of their occupation was actually performing surgery and they can't do that anymore, they can still be a neurosurgeon. They just can't do surgery anymore, but they can be in the office and they can consult and they can do all the other things. They can actually still hold that title and get paid. Wow. Yeah. Very robust definition for medical professionals. So you can just kind of make your way through this. There's a lot of words on here.
Yeah, let's just roll through this one real quick.
Yeah, so I'll just point to the right side of the screen. This type of plan is turnkey. It slides right into all your other benefits that you provide. And all the heavy lifting is done by the insurance company that provides this benefit. So no extra work hours for your HR, no headaches, nothing like that. And your employees, they see this coming from you. They can't get it anywhere else, right? If they try to get it individually, a lot of them get declined or they get rated, things like that. It's not a good experience. So they see this from you. And the final thing is that if they ever go anywhere, right? Let's just say they have a midlife crisis and the neurosurgeon says, I'm going to become a lawyer, they can take that benefit with them, right?
So we talked about retention planning. We talked about protection, the heightened awareness about that because of their neighbors getting sick and the pandemic and all the stuff on the news.
Right.
How educated do you feel like employees are nowadays, and what's the benefit of providing education services to their employees?
Great education. This is like if you Google like terms and trends, like this is a trendy thing in the benefit space, right? Financial education, financial literacy, some people call it financial wellness. And what we found here, Stephen, is that a lot of like we do individual planning, but a lot of people would love to get that opportunity through work, right? Because they have so many issues. If you click to the next slide, right? What do they get at work? Well, they get a 401k usually, and they get some sort of group insurance like health insurance, vision, dental, life, that sort of thing, right? So they cover like the basics there. But then when they leave work, like they look at their 401k, they're like, I don't know how to invest the money, right? They look at their two kids in the face and they go, man, these two kids need to go to college. I don't know where to begin and how to fund for that. I also have debt. What do I do first? Like, do I pay off my debt? Do I invest money? They have all 9 times out of 10 they don't have any legal documents, right, Stephen? So they have like all these issues that they leave work and they go home with, and they don't have anybody to turn to. A lot of people don't want to turn to a financial planner because they don't know. They think they need $1 million to go to a financial planner, and that's just not true. And for some reason there's a disconnect there. So what we did is we said, well, let's marry the two. Let's just say, hey, we can give you access to good financial tools and good financial planning at work. It can be a work benefit. And we love this part. We love the education aspect of financial planning. And so what we do with people is this 3-step experience, which is one, we do live workshops. We can do them at the office. Obviously, Zoom became a very popular way to do these after the pandemic. But we actually show up in person. We say, hey, everybody, let's get together. Let's talk. This is not your traditional, oh, my 401k provider does that. Well, they might do it, but they're going to talk about the 401k and that's it, right? We're going to talk about everything. And we're going to bring Q&A to the table. People are going to ask questions that many people in the audience probably wanted to ask, but they just don't want to ask them. And they figure out those questions in those live Q&A sessions. Those are a lot of fun. So we have a curriculum that we go through. People get handouts. People get it's a full-blown educational experience. They're going to feel like they're at college for like maybe 30 minutes. And then the cool thing is that once they leave us, we want this to be really sticky, right? We want them to be able to benefit from this. It wasn't just a seminar, because we've all been to seminars that were great and then we go home and we do nothing. This gives them this website experience. So they can go home and say, okay, well, here's all my stuff in one place. They get a good balance sheet perspective of everything they have going on financially. Very powerful website tool that's individual to them. They input all the numbers, right? And so now they have a tool, right? They can see, okay, here's all the stuff I learned at work through the live workshops. And then here's me in detail through the website experience. So that's really great. And then they can do nothing after that, but go ahead, go back one more. But the last part, and I think this is the key to everything here, is they have access to us as financial professionals, our team, that says, only if you raise your hand, right? We never call them. We don't like look at the census and say, all right, well, maybe we'll call these people. Only when they raise their hand and say, hey, we would love some help. I got some issues I want to take care of. Then they have access to a financial professional like you, Steven, like me, and a few others on our team, where we can actually say, come on into our office. Let's go ahead and take a closer look at what you got going on. How can we help you? Okay. So that's a full 360 view a financial education where they can actually sit down with somebody, not just discover what's important to them, but actually sit down with somebody. We call that program Wealth Steps. It's a very, highly organized, well put together professional program that they get to participate in.
And
So,
because the employer is providing this, they don't have to pay a big financial planning fee to get this stuff done.
yeah, that's one of the roadblocks, isn't it? Like people think
Yep.
they're going to pay a huge fee to get a planner, and they don't have to do that now. They get it through you, the employer.
Yep.
So this is just the overall view, the three areas that we focus on: who wins, you win, and they win. But retention, protection, education is the areas that we've seen have been effective in this post-pandemic employee world.
Well, it's all about the with them, man. It's what's in it for me. If I'm a business owner, what's in it for them? Number one is you get to keep the best people close to the vest, and you get to make sure that they are there for the long haul. So you can go out and continue to grow that business alongside of them. You get to protect those people as well through, having to cover the reverse discrimination that comes with a lot of group benefits and making sure they understand their benefits, and really the education piece as well. So they feel confident, they have clarity, they have security about their futures, just like you do with this business.
Yes, sir.
Right under 30 minutes, man. I think we did a good
Try
job.
to go as fast as I could.
Nice work. Do we have any questions at all, maybe in the chat? Let's see. No, I think we're good. So we're going to send this out to everybody. We've recorded it. And so we'll give it to everybody who registered and attended. So thank you so much for your time. Ben, pleasure to having you on today, man.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.